black skin. Our next presenter knows plenty about overcoming obstacles. He will be attending the University of Missouri this fall to major in wildlife and fisheries and wildlife biology. From Morrisville FFA chapter in Area 10, your first state vice president, Mitchel Blehm.
Thank you. I don't know about you guys, but I really like to hunt and fish, and I really like to coon hunt. And in order to go coon hunting, you usually have a dog that chases a coon up a tree. In order to train this dog, you have to catch a coon and release it and tell the dog what to do. So last year, I just got me a new coon pup, and I needed to train this dog. So what I needed was a raccoon. So I spent a few days driving down the road tonight looking for two eyes in the ditch. I was unsuccessful. And then eventually I was driving home late at night and I see two eyes. And I look behind me and I look in front of me, there's no cars. I have the perfect opportunity to catch a raccoon. So I shut off my truck, I run through this field after this raccoon, and I pick it up by its tail. And I'm holding it away from me, because that can be kind of aggressive. So I'm walking back to my truck, and I look at my truck bed, and my cage isn't there. So I think to myself, I finally got one, but I got to take it home to train my dog. So I look at the cab of my truck. Well, there's not too much, so I throw it to the other side. It kind of growls at me. So I drive home with this raccoon in the passenger side of my truck. When I get home, I open up my garage door and I pull inside. And I know I have to go get a cage to put this raccoon in because I don't want to tear up my truck all night. So I go through my house, I go down to my shop, and I get my cage. Well, I walk back up and I get in my garage and it just don't seem right. I look at my truck cab and I look and look. The raccoon's no longer there. The raccoon's in my garage. That night, I turned my garage upside down looking for that raccoon. I look everywhere. And I go to bed and I tell myself I'm going to get up early the next morning and look again. The next morning I did the same. I couldn't find it. So there's only one place this raccoon could be, in my house. So I looked and I never found it. And then a couple of days went by, and I started hearing noises at night. Specifically the trash can in my kitchen, as it was hitting the ground. That moment, I knew that everything was going to be different until I found this raccoon. I spent many nights up late at night trying to hide from my mom that there's a raccoon living in my house. I couldn't go out to friends' houses or do things that I wanted to do because I had to be there to clean up messes and make sure a whole bunch of noise wasn't made. If it wasn't, I had to come with a pretty good excuse. Well, eventually, it happened. I was out at a friend's house and I got a phone call. My mom called me and she's like, "There's tracks on my toilet seat." And I say, "Okay, everything's going to be okay. I'll be right home." So I get home and I walk into her bathroom and sure enough, there was these brown paw prints on her toilet seat where the raccoon had muddy feet and was getting the drink out of her toilet. So I had some explaining to do, but I didn't feel like it. So I told her, "You know what, it's going to be okay. I'll take care of it in the morning." Well, that night I laid in bed and I thought to myself, what can I do? What can I do to get this obstacle out of my life? It had been nearly a month and I was living with a raccoon. They changed the way I lived. So I decided I want to open up all the doors and all the windows. Hopefully this raccoon leaves my house. So I did. And since then I haven't heard a raccoon in my house. Now it might still live there, it might be dead somewhere, I'm not for sure. But I haven't heard it since. That was an obstacle. That raccoon living in my house was an obstacle. It prevented me from doing things that I wanted to do. Made me have to stay home and change the way I live. I couldn't sleep at night because I was too busy taking care of something. We all face obstacles. My next story is about someone that I know really well. I care about a lot, and has faced a lot of obstacles in her life. It all started when she was born. She was born 2 months early, and things just weren't right. She had to stay in the hospital for the first month of her life, and she struggled to live. She was born that early, she was so small, and she was so fragile, the doctors just didn't want her to go home just yet. Well, finally she got to come home when she was 2 months old. But it wasn't like a normal 2-month-old child. She was put on a breathing machine, she was fed through a tube, and she was on heart monitors. With her enduring as much as she did, she pulled through. She got better. But when she was 3 months old, everything changed. Everything went to the worst it possibly could. She got extremely sick. She ended up back in the hospital. She was diagnosed with RSV, double pneumonia, and whooping cough. For a little baby girl that's 3 months old, these are some serious diseases or sicknesses. She fought for her life. She dropped to less than 2 pounds and was always on the brink of death. At the same time, the rest of her family got extremely sick as well. So they didn't even get to see the 2 brothers didn't get to see their little sister in the hospital because they were being treated on their own. With being in the hospital for another month, she finally got to come home, but things weren't normal again. She was in a glass container in her parents' room. She was fed through a tube again. She was on heart monitors, and she was on oxygen. Her 2 older brothers didn't get to see her because doctors were afraid they were going to spread an infection. And when her parents seen her, they had to wear masks. They couldn't hold their baby girl like they wanted to. Her 2 older brothers couldn't look into their little sister's eyes like they wanted to. She was still struggling, but she continued fighting. She continued fighting obstacles. She got healthier. When she got to be about 1.5 years old, she still hadn't walked yet, and she couldn't use words. This wasn't normal, so they took her back to the hospital, and she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. She couldn't move her hands together in the front, and she couldn't lift her hands above her head. She was different. She wasn't like most 1.5-year-olds. But she fought through it. She knew that she was different, but she went ahead and went to kindergarten. She couldn't talk until she was almost in 1st grade. She didn't have any friends. She didn't go out to recess. And she couldn't carry a conversation with any one of her classmates. She fought battles daily. She beat her obstacles. She struggled with everything, but she knew that she had to try a little bit harder than everyone else. But she could achieve the same things. At 13 years old today, I'm so proud of my little sister. She's on the junior high cheerleading squad. She spends most of her time in the regular classroom, and she has friends. She can go spend time with people, carry on conversations. She can go out to recess, go out and do things after school. Everyone would look at her and say she's normal. She's not normal. She overcame her obstacles. We're all faced obstacles in life. We all have things come up in front of us that shouldn't be there, but we have to overcome them. Whether it be a raccoon living in your house, a sickness that almost makes you die, getting to FFA camp, running for a chapter office, obstacles are endless. They're everywhere. We all face them. Daily, we all face them. You know, I was in this front row last year. I watched a past state officer give her speech. I looked up at her and I thought, I want to be like her someday. But there's a lot of obstacles along the way. All of you here tonight, think about those obstacles that you have. Think about what you can do to accomplish them. You can set goals, hold true to your morals and values, follow your heart. They're all things that are great. But you're not going to conquer any of your obstacles if you don't believe in yourself. If you don't believe that you can do those things, that you can make that difference, You can run for that chapter office. You can be a spokesperson for something that you strongly believe in. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. So tonight, I ask every one of you to think about your obstacles and conquer them.